Hello and welcome to Ask an Author with Julia Kelly. I have a very special couple of guests with me. This is the first time we've done a multiple person interview, which I'm really excited about. I have with me Lindsay, Emory, and Teri Wilson, who are the authors of the brand new anthology, Christmas Actually. Hello and welcome.
Hey Julia. Hey Teri.
Hi, hey you guys.
So I'm really excited about this. This book has literally just come out this week when we're recording this and going live. And so I think it would be a perfect place to start to hear a little bit about the anthology overall. And then I'd love to hear about both of your stories. And I'm going to make you fight it out who goes first. So
I think Teri should because she's the queen, editor, anthology organizer, everything. Take it away, Teri.
go for
Okay.
it.
I've said this so many times on Zooms with Lindsay. She's going to be like, "Oh my God, here she goes again." So Christmas Actually is our new anthology. This is what the cover looks like.
Love
Um,
it.
and it is an anthology of 11 sweet rom-com novellas from 11 award-winning and best-selling authors, including Lindsay and I. And I'm the one who put the project together, and I got the idea for the project last year at the Romance Writers of America conference in New York in 2019, because Lindsay and I and two other authors that we're friends with, Nancy Nagel and Sasha Summers, gave a workshop on writing romantic comedies. And we had been working, behind the scenes before RWA putting it together. But then when we were there in New York, we got together the morning of just so we could kind of go over everything. And we went to a place called Junior's Cheesecake, which is right next to the hotel. I mean, it was like 7:30 a.m. and we were eating cheesecake for breakfast.
As
And
one does at a romance conference.
exactly. And I mean, I think our workshop was like at 11 or something. But I
It was a
thought that
great workshop, by the way. I was able to go. It was absolutely fantastic. So whatever the cheesecake did, it did its job.
magic cheesecake. But I thought, well, we'll get ready, we'll have the breakfast, we'll go over stuff, and then we'll each do whatever we're doing in the morning, and then we'll meet back at the workshop. But we all bailed on everything we had going on all morning, and we sat there at the cheesecake place for like 3 hours, like waiting until then we went straight to the workshop. But we had such a good time, and we worked together so well. And writing is such a solitary pursuit, and which has been really hammered home this year, obviously, that I just really enjoyed that experience. And at the same conference, I went to a workshop on doing multi-author anthologies and trying to hit the USA Today bestseller list. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to do that with Lindsay, Sasha, and Nancy, and we could just get a few other people on board. And I know that we could do it. And I remember the day that I had the idea for it, once I got home and really started thinking about it, I thought, no, that's crazy. I have a lot on my plate, but I just really wanted to do it. And I think I was at the bank drive-through and I called Lindsay and she was like, hello, like, why are you calling me? I was like, hey, do you want to do an anthology and make a list run? And she was like, yes. And so that is kind of how the whole thing came about. That, we handpicked all the authors that we have in the book, and they're all great. And we, pick them from different, we know them from all different, different publishers, different events, and they're all wonderful authors, wonderful people. And we honestly have had such a good time. This whole thing has been a wonderful experience in ways that I never anticipated. I mean, obviously, we didn't know what was going to happen in 2020, but it's been awesome being able to work on a group project and do something together with other people, especially this year. And then once the stories started rolling in and I started reading them, oh my gosh, they're all so good. And I was so excited because they're all different, they're all really good in different ways. So I think that there's something, in the book for everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful. Really quickly, Lindsay, I'm gonna ask you to describe a bit about your story, which I know is every author's least favorite question, other than what are you working on? But I just wanted to say we're getting a lot of people saying hello from all over the place, which is great. If you guys do have questions, we're going to be doing Q&A just like usual. Now you have two authors to ask questions to, so it should be a lot of fun. And yeah, so go ahead and drop your questions into the comments. But for now, Lindsay, do you want to talk a little bit about your part of the anthology?
Sure. I just love hearing Teri said I'd get sick of listening to her tell that story, and I don't at all. It's such a good memory that day. I mean, putting together the workshop with Teri and Nancy and doing it with Sasha, and really it was like it was magic. Like when people just click, they just click. And I was like, all right, you're officially part of my tribe now and forevermore. And so, yes, when Teri calls me, the moral of the story is when Teri calls you to do something, you're like, yes, yes, whatever it is, yes.
I can believe that.
Yeah, because the workshop was great, the anthology was great. And I'll admit, there have been some times this year, you know, where I'm like, I don't know if we can pull this off. I don't know if we should be doing this. I don't know if it's you know, that you have, for me, I've had so many moments of, is it appropriate to be celebrating this year? Is it appropriate to be creative this year? And but having this group and having it be, you know, really a wholesome thing. You know, we're all celebrating a holiday. We're showing people like our version of the world and how we see love and the holidays and family. Anyway, so that's how I approached my story. I'll get to your question. Because, you know, I thought about what would be my version of a Hallmark movie written by Lindsay Emory. And I put all the things in there that I really just love. This year, apparently it's staying in a historic inn.
Sounds great. You got me already.
And my heroine, Lily Ostrowski, is part of a big family she's one of triplets. She's the only triplet that hasn't been married yet, which is why I can still write a romance story about her. I mean, yeah, y'all know what I mean. You know, her sisters, one sister is a mom of twins, the other one is pregnant with twins and has 3 stepsons. And so I just wanted to have like this big crazy family that loved each other. And the hero happens to be her brother-in-law's brother. So I got to grab in more family, more layers. And you know, they're staying at this historic inn that is haunted by a matchmaking ghost. So you know, that's my Lindsay Emory twist to it. But I think it works. I kept trying to tell people, I was like, it's not a real ghost story. It's just the spirit of love that is surrounding these people. So
that is perfect. That is perfect. And I really want to just put it out in the world that I would love a Lindsay Emory Hallmark movie. And, you know, the spirit of love at Christmas sounds perfect. So we'll make it happen. Exactly. Teri, what about your story?
Well, this was one of the fun things about doing the anthology is because I think we, you know, because we were doing it ourselves, we had the freedom to just write whatever we wanted. You know, we didn't have to please an editor or a publisher, and we could just really go all in on who we are. And so mine is a royal story. It's a Merry Royal Layover. And it's about a veterinarian who's just graduated from vet school. She doesn't start her new job until after the new year. So for Christmas, she's going on a volunteer vacation to work at an animal shelter in a tiny kingdom called Caldavia in Europe, very picturesque. And en route to her kingdom on Christmas Eve, she gets snowed in at Heathrow Airport, and her dad buys her a pass to the first class lounge and sends it to her via text. And so she goes in there, it's Christmas Eve, they're playing Love Actually on all the TVs. And so she settles in to a recliner, and next to her is someone who may or may not be the crown prince of the country where she's traveling to. So
very exciting.
It's really fun. They spend the whole layover together, and it's kind of like Hallmark royal movie meets Love Actually. There's a real Love Actually theme going on in my story. And in case anyone doesn't like Love Actually, don't be fooled by the title, Christmas Actually. Mine is the only Love Actually related story in the whole book. But since we had called it Love Actually, I kind of thought, you know, we should have a dash of Love Actually in there. And I love Love Actually. So yes, mine's a royal story meets Love Actually. And it's super loosely based on a real life experience that I had when I was coming home from visiting my son, Cameron, who lives in Korea. He teaches English there. And I was coming back from Asia, and I was stuck in an airport in an extended layover in LA. And I walked into the first class lounge, and there was a guy there who looked exactly like Prince Harry. So Yes. So this was about the time that he and Meghan Markle were dating, but they weren't engaged yet, but they were like all over, you know, the tabloids. Okay. So I walked in and I was like, man, that guy looks like Prince Harry. And so, of course, you know, I creepy stalked him and took a stealthy picture and posted it on Facebook and said, hey, I know, it's so bad. And I was like, hey guys, I am in an airport lounge with a guy who looks a lot like Prince Harry. Do you think it's him? Vote yes or no. And that Facebook post like totally took off. And I ended up,
Of
you know,
course.
yeah, no, it had like hundreds of comments by the end because people were like, talk to him and see if he has a British accent. And so I did, and he did have a British accent. And then
You're the one person who somebody could be like, you should totally just talk to that stranger and find out if it is Prince Harry. And you'd actually do it.
I did it. But, I was like so intimidated because I kind of started thinking, oh my God, like, what if it is? Because I saw his boarding pass. And he had, of course, and he had been to Canada, where Meghan Markle lived at the time. And I was like, it's totally him. So that was such a fun experience. And it was actually more fun writing about it than actually like living the experience.
Sure.
But, so I kept thinking I wanted to put that in a book or put it into a story. And so I finally got to. So that is what my story is based on. That plus Love Actually.
Oh, I love it. Well, I can confirm that Love Actually here plays on every TV all the time throughout all of Christmas. And some people hate it and some people love it. I love it. And I still love it after seeing it dozens and dozens of times. But yeah, I'm with you. So what is it about rom-coms in particular that works so well with Christmas, do you think? Because I'm thinking about not just your anthology, but also Hallmark movies, of which we can talk a little bit about that, Teri. You have a close connection with that. And Lindsay, you are also a fantastic rom-com writer. And I know you've done a little bit of Christmas rom-com before. So what is it that feels right with that season, do you think?
I'm going back to the workshop that Teri and I gave about holiday we didn't really touch that much on holiday rom-coms. We were just mainly talking about regular rom-coms, but I think a lot of the things stay true. Like you can bring in an extended cast, family and friends that are gathering. You've usually got a big event that everyone's planning for or surrounding. So in holidays, there's like the baking competition or travel or something that puts people in awkward positions where they might feel, or that might bring rise to comedic activity and also bring them in contact with people that they don't normally see. So you could have a possibility for meet cute in the snow, or when you've got icing on your nose. It brings in all the elements that you would have for a successful rom-com.
Okay. And is there anything in particular that was challenging about writing these? Because I know the secret about a lot of Christmas books is that they're not written at Christmas time. So when did you guys actually start tackling these drafts? And was it difficult transplanting a little bit? Or did you write them at Christmas and I'm just completely off?
No, and I have a lot of Christmas out this year. I have two full-length Christmas novels out this year, plus this anthology. So I feel like I've been writing Christmas all of 2020. Because I have a book, Christmas Charms, out with Hallmark, actually. And I don't even want to say when I wrote my story, because Lindsay's going to say, but hey, you told me I had to have mine in by August. So I wrote mine in September. So, I know. It was getting closer to the holidays, the most challenging thing about writing it for me was that I've never written anything that short before. I've only written books. I've never written a novella or a short story. So that was kind of, the temptation to pack too much in there, and run out of space was great for me. But I think that what I did differently than what Lindsay did and what some of the other authors did is my story takes place over a course of maybe 12 hours. I mean, I picked a very concentrated amount of time. And so that really helped being able to keep it, within a certain number of words and not, go over. So we didn't end up with a 3,000 word book.
What about you, Lindsay?
I wrote mine this spring during lockdown. And that's part of the blessing of this anthology was I had a deadline. But so it gave me something to work for, but also I did the whole Christmas thing. I was in lockdown and I did a Christmas playlist and I just listened to Christmas music and I got into it and it was such a mood lifter. It was really a blessing. I keep using that word, but there's just no other word to describe it. It's really a blessing to be able to focus on another charm spot. I think early on in the lockdown, I maybe had already started it. And I think I even emailed Teri. Again, I'm going back to like, I didn't know, should we be talking about pandemic stuff in this book? A lot of authors were kind of going crazy and being like, do I need to put masks on my characters now? And we were trying to adjust to how to write in this new world. And Teri was like, no.
I was going to bring that up, but I was like, I'm not going to bring up that email. I don't even know if Lindsay remembers writing it, but I was like, you are not giving me a pandemic Christmas story.
No, I do, because I needed to hear it. I needed to hear like, no, keep your heart pure, keep your eyes focused on the future, stay happy, because I think that if you had said, sure, do a pandemic Christmas story, I mean, who knows what would have come out of it.
We're about to live a Christmas through pandemic, so that's a tough one.
Yeah, actually had a funny pandemic idea, but we won't. Yeah, I think what we all came up with was much better.
So it's maintaining a little bit of the fantasy that comes along with Christmas, right? Because Christmas is, I love it personally, and my family loves it, and it's this big, artificial produced thing with decorations around. And if I gotten my act together, we would be decorated behind the shelves here. But I love all of that. But I also know that it's part of kind of the run up and just being cheerful, and it feels uplifting. But I also know that it's not really real life. It's sort of something close to real life, hopefully.
No, but I think that is one of the things that makes holiday romance so successful, both in books and on film, and why Hallmark Channel has, 40 new movies every year, and why people love Christmas books and films is because that pure idea of the perfect Christmas is something, even though a lot of people have never experienced it, we all relate to it, because we all of us universally had that idea of Christmas when we were kids. I mean, that is how children see Christmas. And so even as adults, we still have that memory of wanting that perfect Christmas, or the ideal of a perfect Christmas in our heart. And we like to think that that's what the holidays are going to be like. That's what we want them to be like. And I think that universal love for the idea of a perfect Christmas is what makes these stories resonate with so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think maybe we'll answer a couple of questions, because that actually segues. You didn't know this, but it segues perfectly into a question from one of our friends, actually, Teri, Rachel Brimble, has written in. So Rachel is an author as well. So hello to her. And she asks, what would you say are the essential elements that are needed to be included in a sweet romance / Hallmark film for the reader or viewer's satisfaction?
Am I supposed to answer that, or Lindsay?
Yeah, either one. What are the rules that you think work well with these books and with these movies?
Okay, I wouldn't say that. Well, a happy ending, obviously. A happy ending is. I was just about to say there shouldn't be rules, but no, that's a rule. So
right, it's a romance. It has to have a happy ending.
Right, and so I think. Okay, if we're going to get really technical and talk about rules for successful Christmas stories in films or in romance, I think that you can't just have a story and set it against the backdrop of Christmas. I think that Christmas has to be an actual meaningful part of the story. It provides the structure, because there are so many different fun Christmas things you can do. But I think that if you can have a part of the story that, like I said, taps into that need that everyone has, or the want that everyone has for a perfect Christmas, and to feel those warm, fuzzy, Christmas feelings. If you can incorporate that into your story, and, I think that makes it more successful, make the reader feel some feels, even if your story is funny, like ours are, Lindsay and I, are hilarious, but we still, bring the feels, because, we still want to write something that tugs at the reader's heartstrings. But make it as Christmassy as possible. I was talking to a friend of mine who had a Christmas film, not on Hallmark, but on another network, and we were just chatting about our experiences. And she was telling me that when she went on set, there was a rule. I mean, let's talk about rules. That her set had a rule that there had to be at least one Christmas scene, and there had to be at least one Christmas tree in every frame of the movie.
That's impressive.
Right. So no matter where they were, there was a Christmas tree in the scene somewhere. And, and I was on set. I have a Christmas movie from Hallmark called Northern Lights of Christmas. It premiered on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries channel 2 years ago. And it's rerunning this year on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries, called Northern Lights of Christmas. And I was on set for one of the days of filming that. And we were filming the airport scene. The movie opens at the Seattle airport. And I got to be in it. I was someone walking through the airport on Christmas Eve, which is hilarious because the director kept saying, "Smile, everybody." And, everyone was holding packages. And he's like, "Smile, be really happy. No stress in this airport." That's what he kept saying. But we
had the fantasy.
Yes. And I counted, we were just in a hallway. It was just the hallway of a college that had been made up to look like an airport. And there were 10 Christmas trees in the hallway. Wow. And that's why I kept thinking about her saying that. Christmas tree in every scene. So, make it super Christmassy and super festive. That's what people want, in these type of stories.
Okay. What about you, Lindsay? Are there any things that in particular that you felt like had to be in a Christmas story? A Christmas Story by Lindsay Emory.
Oh, I mean, I think, okay, I don't know. I think food and beverage, I don't know. That's the answer that's coming to me because it's like you want to key in on the things that mean Christmas to people, right? And so like, Christmas tree visually in a movie, bingo, because you never see that any other time of year. And I think when you're writing a story, like, you can't say, and there was a Christmas tree in the corner, and there was you could, but you've got to kind of give them things to do that they will immediately associate with Christmas. So for me, that's always food and there's certain foods and beverages, hot chocolates, peppermint, cinnamon. You put all of these details in that you would only associate with Christmas, because you're not going to be able to see that your coffee cup has gingerbread flavor in it. You have to describe things in a way that cues people into that sensory experience of Christmas. So like when I think about my story, there's a whipped cream on top of hot chocolate. There's the my family in this story has cookie decorating and this and that, and so it's all these things that you just immediately are going to always associate with that feeling of the holiday.
Are there things that you guys felt, this is a family tradition of my own, I have to incorporate this in, or things that you wish that you could have put into the book? You're both living in Texas, so you, like me when I was growing up, are in warm weather places, so maybe the white Christmas is not so much your experience, although now that I've moved here, it's just raining consistently throughout the Christmas season, so that's now my Christmas. But are there certain things that feel very Christmassy to you that you wanted to make sure that you got in there? I know you mentioned food and drink, but
I think that's kind of the slight twist I gave it in my family, in my story that relates to my family in particular, is that my family always had kind of eclectic Christmas because we are Texans, and I live in Texas now, and that's where my culture was from, but my family moved around a lot when I was a kid, and so we spent Christmases in Indonesia, and I spent a Christmas in Asia and Scotland, and so we always brought things from our home and different cultures into our Christmas and into our individual Christmas celebrations. So in my story, I have the Ostrowski family has these kind of weird Christmas traditions, but they talk about it. Like they are like, we have peanut butter and jelly because that was the year that all three triplets had braces and they couldn't, chew. They wanted soft food for Christmas. So that became a Christmas tradition for that family. And then that, and so I think each family can bring in their own Christmas traditions. And I think that hopefully that will resonate with some readers. Like, yeah, my family has this crazy Christmas tradition too, where we always drink orange juice instead of cider because there was one Christmas that they were out of cider at the store and we all decided we wanted orange juice. And, there's just all these things that become a tradition for your family because of your individual memories. And I hope I brought that in.
I'm trying to think if I have any personal traditions in my story. I mean, they're stuck in an airport, so
I was gonna say that does make it a little hard to incorporate some of the homey things in there.
it does. But what I tried to do, again, since I was giving my story a Love Actually thing, a Love Actually theme, is I tried to have as many hidden Love Actually references as I could in the story.
Very
So,
nice.
she's walking through the airport in the beginning and she sees a big gingerbread village display. And when I describe the gingerbread village, it's the exact same opening montage of the scenes of London that are in the movie. So I did a bunch of things like that because I was trying to reference Love Actually in a lot of ways without actually saying this is from Love Actually, because I thought that would be fun for people who really liked the movie. And like I said, I love the movie. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. So that's what I was doing. And I'm pretty sure my heroine is from Texas originally. She's in London, but she has flown there from Dallas, I believe. So,
And she's
in
a veterinarian, and there's all sorts of little dog references.
there's a French bulldog puppy, which is why I'm wearing my French bulldog Christmas sweater today.
Love it.
And I don't want to give away the dog's name because it's the very last line of the story, but he has a really cute name. So.
I love it. I love it. Well, we had a question going back to your comment about, some of the challenge of writing short rather than long, because Teri, I know you said this is the first time you've really done a novella or a short story. So Susan wanted to know, how is the process for writing short stories different from writing a full-length novel? So I'm guessing we have two different authors, well, we have three different authors. All three of us would answer this in different ways. So I'd love to hear from you both kind of your different approaches to things.
I'll go. I think I'm very much, this is gonna get kind of technical and wonky. I hope that's okay.
I think technical and wonky is the specialty of this
Okay.
of this channel. Don't worry.
I'm a very big I don't know how to describe it. So I do a very loose plot before I write anything, and I recognize that I have to hit certain beats. And I think the main difference for me between writing long and short is how much space is going to be between the beats. So for short, it's like every scene hits a beat for me. And that's one of the reasons why I actually do like writing short, is that there's not as much, I don't have to stress out about what do they do getting from here to here, because I am a very plot-driven author. I like a lot of action in my stories, and so I feel like I have to fill everything with something. And when you're writing short, it's a lot easier to be like, and then they had this fall on them, and then they went to this room, and then they got locked in a closet, and then they went out in the snow. I mean, it's like boom, 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 boom. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's just, it can be a lot tighter, and it can just be a lot more action packed, and you don't have to put quite so many scenes of people looking out windows at the snow coming down and wondering where they all went wrong. No.
What about you, Teri? With doing this as your first go, what did you find different about it?
Well, just to give some advice, I mean, what I did was, like I said, I put it in a very tight time frame, just a number of hours as opposed to days. And I wrote my story in first person POV, which is one of my favorite things to do. I mean, I've only written two full novels in first person POV. All the rest are in third, and I love writing in first. But since it was short and it was in first person, I mean, the story is basically the heroine's story. We get her backstory, we get her goals and all of that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's a very tight story because it's only, I think, 11,000 words. So the hero is obviously very important to the story, but it's her story in that she has more of an arc than he does. We never really find out, his whole backstory, or if he has goals, that sort of thing. And that was ways, was one of the ways that was easier to make it a short story. I didn't have to include all of that, because through most of the story, it's a mystery of who he even is. That's kind of part of the hook to the story. So that was a way to make easier to fit it into a short story than a long book because it was more focused on one character than giving them equal parts like I would do in a traditional romance novel.
What about it when it came to research? I know, there's a common misconception. I've interviewed a few historical fiction authors, and obviously I've written historical fiction as well. There's a misconception that historical authors are the only ones that do research. So, and it can be this particular anthology or other things. Can you guys talk about some of the research challenges that you find when you're writing contemporary stories, and sort of how you try to approach those? I can get more specific if that's helpful.
No, I mean, I'll go ahead and answer that. I mean, for this story in particular, I had the movie Love Actually pulled up on my laptop the whole entire time I was writing it. And I would pause to watch scenes and try and figure out what I could take from the movie and put in the story. There's a nativity pageant at the airport in my story. And but that's one of the things I was doing. So I had that pulled up on my laptop the whole time. And also, I've been to London, I've been to Heathrow Airport several times, but since that's where the story was, I had my Google images pulled up so I could look and see, all the different places in Heathrow and what they look like during the holidays. I think, I have a huge respect for historical authors. I'm like way too chicken to try and do that.
Because it's fabulous at it, both of you.
It just seems so daunting. But I think for a contemporary story, a lot of the research can go into setting, like really making the setting come alive and making the reader feel like they're there, is super important. And I don't know, what do you think, Lindsay?
Always, usually always, mostly always, I write in Scrivener, and I do always keep a tab in Scrivener of my research that I'm doing. I don't know that I did that much research for this story. I had kind of, the town I set it in was the same town, trivia, I don't know if I've really talked about this before, it's the same town that I have 2 other books set in, my Sorority Sisters Mysteries. So in my head, I kind of already knew the town, so I wasn't really freshly creating that. I did some research on this on there's a scene, so my heroine is an event planner, and so I think looked up some event planning jobs and some things that she might have done in the past. I don't even know if that even went into the story or not. And there's a scene where she's decorating with flowers for Christmas Eve vow renewal, and I did some research on flowers because I don't know the names of flowers. Again, I'm not really sure. There might have been like one flower that made it into the book, which I think is pretty universal for all authors. We say like, oh, wow, we're doing research. And then like this one tiny thing shows up in the book. But I do research all the time for things. I'm very much a magpie. I collect a lot of weird trivia about history and politics and stuff. And so that kind of always works its way into my stories. But it's not necessarily research. I mean, it's research, but then I kind of put my own slant on it. For those of you that have read my royal book, The Royal Runaway, there's a whole lot of history in that book that I made up, but it all came from a lot of real history that I read. I would read something about the Habsburgs and I'd be like, oh, I could use that. I smushed a whole bunch of royal families together to create my royal family. So I think that's kind of just my process. I don't know if other contemporary authors would smush things up quite as much.
But I think that makes sense, right? When you're both talking about sort of, there are things that may not have made it into the book. So research is a bit like a funnel, right? You're casting about for ideas, and then it narrows and it narrows and it narrows, and then maybe 1 or 2 mentions end up in the book. But they're really important and really good, and you're really glad that you got them right.
That one flower made it so realistic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and it makes sense, right? Because if you were never an event planner, then you have to familiarize yourself with it, and it would be, it would be a bit of a challenge to write, a career's worth of books where you just have one profession for your heroine over and over and over again, because that's the one thing that you knew. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? You can do that. I don't think you can.
I wrote a series of books for Harlequin where, all my heroes were, billionaires basically. And so I had, I had like hotel owner and, I had all these, fancy professions. And so then I got to one. And when I turned in my proposal, to give it to my editor, I made my hero be a billionaire investment banker. And actually, this was a Christmas book now that I'm thinking about it. And so then I went to sit down to write the book, and I was like, I do not know what an investment banker even is. I mean, I don't know.
It sounded good though.
It sounded really good, like super sexy. But then I was like, what? He's at his office, like, what's he doing all day? And so I was asking one of my friends, I was telling her this, and I said, I don't, what am I going to do? Like, why did I write an investment banker? And she said, make him crunch some numbers, make him consult the spreadsheet. And so I was like, well, that's going to get me through chapter 3. But yeah, so I had to teach myself like what that even is. And I still don't even know. Well, I just don't, it's a lot of math, but
calls a lot, I guess, maybe.
Yes. There's contracts. He reviewed a lot of contracts.
Definitely.
And mergers and acquisitions. But I don't know if y'all use the book, the craft book, The Emotional Thesaurus.
I have it at my flat, and I'm not at my flat right now. And I was just thinking the other day, I really wish I had it with me.
I would hold these books up, but there's a whole series of them, and they are literally underneath my laptop, propping it up to eye level right now. But which goes to show I always have them by me. But they have different ones. I'm looking at them right now because they have the Emotion Thesaurus is a book that kind of tells you what you feel, how to describe certain emotions. But they also have like the rural setting thesaurus, the urban setting thesaurus. So if you look up like airport, it'll show you the sights and sounds and things at the airport that can kind of help you in your writing. Well, they came out with a new one this year called the Occupation Thesaurus. And I was like, I could have used that when I was writing that investment banker guide.
I like it.
Yes.
I might have, I do have the Emotional Thesaurus, and it's really, really helpful. If you sit there and you just think to yourself, I can't have my heroine's eyes narrow again because I've done that 4 or 5 times in this book already. What am I going to do? And then you're able to kind of just be like, oh, right. People do other things when they're suspicious.
Those are great craft books. And I went to a workshop in Dallas where one of the authors gave, and that's when I bought the Emotion Thesaurus, and I used it all the time. So I've bought like the whole set. So like I said, they're all right here on my desk.
Well, speaking of sort of craft and things like that, this is, again, to put you guys a little bit on the spot, but do you have any advice for people who may be interested in writing or are sort of trying to potentially push to have their first thing published? I realize that's really big and really scary as a question. So maybe just kind of one thing that you think was useful to you when you were first starting out.
One thing that was useful when I was starting off, I think if you feel called to do it, just do it. It's not scary. I mean, it's scarier than it sounds, or it sounds scarier than it is. That's what I mean.
There we go.
So like I always tell my kids, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Someone tells you no, and or someone doesn't buy your book. And if it's something that's on your heart, I always tell people, write it and put it out there. I think the world needs more of people's dreams and ideas and fantasies right now. So, do it. Don't stress out too much because everyone has a first book. And hopefully if you keep going, one day you'll have a 100th book and you'll be so glad that you had that first one. Like there's just no reason to wait if you feel called to do it.
I love that answer. Teri, is there anything that you want to tell people who are starting out?
Yes, I have some advice, but first I'm going to piggyback on what Lindsay said, because that was an excellent answer. And I mean, I'm a big believer in putting yourself out there and going for stuff because, I used to show dogs, and I had, it doesn't sound like it's related, but it really is. And so I had, my dog show mentor was this like 80-year-old named Harold, and he was so nice. And so I would always ask him, there's a show in Austin this weekend. Do you think I should show Bliss? And his answer was always the same thing. You can't win if you don't enter. And that has become my philosophy for life in general. I mean, you can't get what you want if you don't even try. And so it's kind of like with our anthology, when we first started putting it out there, I thought, should we tell people that we're trying to hit the bestseller list? I mean, what if we don't make it, and then we've like made this big deal out of it. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's what we want, and I believe in going for it and, manifesting it and making it happen, putting it out there and then working really hard to make that dream come true. Mm-hmm. So I think that Lindsay's answer was amazing. I was just going to say, read a lot.
Yeah, that's usually my answer.
Yeah, I was going to
educate yourself in the genre.
Right. Read a lot in the genre that you would like to write, and also practice finishing things, because there are so many aspiring authors out there who have a bunch of half-written stories, because as we all know, when you get to the middle, it gets a lot harder. So just practice, start a book and finish it, even if it's not something that will ever see the light of day. My first book that I ever wrote and finished, part of it was told from the POV of a horse. I mean, it was just not good.
Really?
And yes, it was a YA. There was everyone. Yeah, I don't even want to get into it because it was really bad. But
all of us have that book where we just think, if this could never make it out from underneath the bed, that would be okay.
Correct. And so, so it never will. But that was a really important book for me to write, because it taught me how to start and finish a book. Yeah. And once you start and finish one, it just gets easier every time. I mean, for the most part. But I mean, it equips you with the knowledge that you can do it. Like, I know, okay, when I get to the hard part, there's always this challenging part in every book that we write. Usually it's not all sunshine and roses every single day. But we all know, I've done this before. There's no reason why I can't do this again. I just have to keep at it and it'll get done.
No, I agree. And I'm just going to really quickly answer Mary's question. So she asked me a question. You started writing as a romance novelist. Does this genre hold a special place in your heart? I mean, obviously, yes, it does, because it brought me people like you guys. But I think the biggest thing for me about romance is it's where I started, it's where I cut my teeth, and it's what taught me absolutely everything I know about writing. And I'm so, so grateful that there's a genre where people are encouraged to embrace that and try a lot of things and, really dig into character and really dig into plot. And you learn how to not just write a book, but be a real working author. Because if there's one genre where authors are really serious working authors, it's romance. I mean, the amount of productivity and publishing and the length of some people's careers in romance is just absolutely incredible. So to me, it brought me an incredible community, but it also kind of built me up as an author and allowed me to figure out how I wanted to conduct myself, how my writing process was going to work. It just taught me absolutely everything about the business and then also about the craft side. So I'm hugely, hugely grateful for romance. And I'm still a huge romance reader as well. So I think that's a big part of it too, is just a lot of affection for the genre, a lot of affection for rom-com. I'm delighted that rom-com is popular because I missed those books when there was a little bit of a lull for a while there. But yeah, I'm just absolutely love the genre. So yeah. Well, I think maybe we might switch back to talking a bit about Christmas because Mark has asked, other than Love Actually, do you have any particular Christmas books or films that you really love? Which I think maybe is a nice way to transition into also asking you guys about what you're reading and loving right now. So maybe we'll set that aside for a moment and just focus on the Christmas books and films, and you can have a think about what you've been reading recently. Because I know my mind always goes blank whenever anybody asks me about what I've read recently that I thought was really good. So how about Christmas films and books?
Teri, you want to go?
I'll go. I love like the older classic Christmas movies, but the other modern movie that I love besides Love Actually, probably my favorite Christmas movie, is The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet, where they switch houses. Mm-hmm. I love that movie so much. I mean, I watch it all the time when it's, Christmas time. So, kind of the idea of switching lives and, I don't know, I really like that movie. So, and of course, Elf cracks me up, but The Holiday and Love Actually are my two big staples that I have to see every year. And of course, I'm a big Hallmark movie Hallmark Christmas movie fan. I try and watch all the new ones every year.
That's
So
impressive because there are a lot of new movies this year.
I try.
Okay, so it doesn't always happen.
Try.
I feel a little better now.
Yes. No, like the DVR is piled high because I just turned in a book 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
since then I've edited a whole book, and I have another book of edits that are due on Monday. And we have
Wow.
the anthology that we've been promoting. So I haven't had a lot of time, but I have watched probably 8 of the new ones so far. I was a guest on a podcast where I had to help review all the new movies of that weekend, of which there were 4. And so that was kind of great because I kept joking with my husband. I was like, I'm watching Hallmark movies this weekend like it's my job, because it is.
Homework. I love
that. I have to. I can't not do it. So I love those movies. So they're just so, feel good. Of course, the royal ones are always my favorite, which is why I was really excited to write my story for the anthology. And what am I reading? I was like, what am I rambling on about? I actually just last weekend went on a Target run and bought a whole stack of Christmas novels, because I hadn't really done a whole lot of Christmas reading. And right now I'm reading the new installment in Debbie May Comer's Mrs. Miracle series, which one of those, or a couple of them, I think, were made into Hallmark movies, with Doris Roberts as Mrs. Miracle. There's always like an angelic presence in those movies, or in those books, like a Mrs. Miracle, or the one I'm reading right now is called Mr. Miracle. And so the angel is a man who has come down and taken the form of a college professor, and he's supposed to be like matchmaking between the characters. So I haven't read Debbie May Comer in years. It's weird. This whole lockdown year, the pandemic, has made me really nostalgic for things that I read and loved a long time ago that I have, just have kind of not, read or consumed in a while. I went on a big Danielle Steele reading binge during lockdown, and I have not read Danielle Steele in years. I mean, I loved Danielle Steele in college, and I realized that is why when I first started reading romance, everyone was super rich and went to a bunch of fancy places, because that's what Danielle Steele always does. And I was like, oh, I see so much of my roots as a novelist in these books. But then my grandmother was a big Danielle Steele fan. So she would always, whenever a new book came out, she would buy it in hardback. And she had her own like Danielle Steele library. And when I would come home from college for the weekends, she would let me like check one out, like a library book, only one at a time.
Very disciplined.
Yes. And then I would read it and we would talk about our favorites. And so I don't know, but something made me pick up a Danielle Steele novel while we were all stuck in our homes in March. And then I went on a whole Danielle Steele reading binge. And it's kind of like the same thing. I haven't read Debbie May Comer in a while, but I saw she gave a free Zoom workshop, and I watched it a couple months ago. And I was like, man, she's amazing how much she's accomplished in her career. I have so much respect for her. And so I was like, I'm going to read a Mrs. Miracle novel this Christmas. So that's what I'm reading right now. And then I also have, actually, it's one of the authors in our anthology, Nancy Nagel. She has a new book out this year called The Heartfelt Christmas Promise. I bought that. And I bought Jenny Hale's new book, Christmas at Fireside Cabin. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I bought like 6 Christmas novels. So I'm like deep into the Christmas right now.
Oh, I love it. I miss being able to go to a shop and just buy a whole bunch of Christmas romances. You just don't get that here. So yeah, I'm very, very jealous of that. That's a staple for me. What about you, Lindsay? Maybe Christmas films and books, and then what are you reading?
Oh, Christmas film. I mean, we kind of always rewatch. I don't have as much time or something to always catch up with the Hallmark crew. I usually wait and see like which ones everyone's talking about, and I kind of pinpoint which ones I'm going to watch. But we're big Elf fans, and I'm a big Will Ferrell fan, so that is on our list every year. And Christmas Vacation. They're just, again, going back to what I was saying earlier about what makes a Christmas rom-com, like you just kind of reach back into like, oh my gosh, I've watched this every year since I was, however old. And, these lines that we all say to each other is just part of our tradition. I was thinking about, I was trying to look it up. I can't do it right now. There was I don't know if it was a Hallmark movie, but there was another one about a Christmas ghost. So everyone has looked at me funny for writing a Christmas ghost. This one had a really hot ghost from the past. It was like a time travel book. Does anyone remember that one?
Time travel book, and it was set at Christmas.
It's set at Christmas, and he's a ghost, and he becomes a human man every year at Christmas, and he's really sexy.
I mean, it sounds like it's ticking all sorts of reader boxes for me.
It
So
looks
I don't
really
know
good.
why
I will look it up. I will look it up. It's probably like the title is probably something really creative, like
The
love
Ghost of Christmas something or something.
Christmas, sexy ghost of Christmas.
The Sexy Ghost of Christmas Past.
Anyway, so that's a really good one. I've been rewatching. I do this every year around the holidays, and I started it early this year. I've been rewatching Downton Abbey, and
Oh, that's a fun idea.
going back to, just something that is soothing and warm, and there's just something about rewatching that whole series. I can have it on while I'm cooking dinner. It's not like something that I have to pay too much attention to, but it's just very soothing for me. And books I am loving, obviously, our anthology. Teri's Christmas Charms came out this year, which was really awesome. She sent me an arc of it.
Lucky.
And I haven't gotten that many arcs this year. So thanks, Teri.
I don't even remember sending that to you, but yay me, I'm glad that I did.
Because I think I used my Teri Wilson tactic of saying, "Can I have an arc for this?" And
like, yeah, that works. Yeah, put it out there. You can't win if you don't enter.
There you go.
Don't enter. I was actually just remembering I did a blog post last year, and I did like a quiz, and you answer questions, and then I'll tell you like which Christmas books you should read. And one of my all-time favorites that Mark might like, is he the one that asked this question?
He is indeed.
Okay. Is A Christmas Gone Perfectly Wrong by Cecilia Grant.
That's a great book.
That is a really good historical romance.
The reason that I read that book too. I think you shamed me for not having read it. Yeah. I read it last year or 2 years ago. I loved it.
Yeah, I have not read it, and that I need to read it now.
Oh, it's
really
fun.
Good. It's often free. Does she keep it? I
think that's right. Yeah, I think it's always free. It's quite a long historical Christmas novella that really is almost a novel length book, I think. So yeah, it's great. It's just you can explain why it's so great, but it's just fantastic.
It's just I don't know if I can explain it. It's just this perfect story about I think it's a Regency romance.
Yep.
And about these two people that things just keep happening at Christmas that are so wrong. Their carriage breaks down. They have only one bed.
Only one bed.
And each time you think like, but the author drags it out in such a beautiful, it's a slow burn, clean historical romance. I don't know. It's just I don't know if it's clean, but it's a slow burn.
It's a very slow burn. Yeah, it takes quite a long time for these people to get together. So by the time they finally do, you're just like, yes.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, I just went and looked, and it is Christmas Gone Perfectly Wrong by Cecilia Grant, and it is free.
There you go.
Permanently free Christmas novella, and it's wonderful if you like historical romance.
Yeah, it really is. I would recommend that highly. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Maybe you can tell us where you can get the anthology, and if you could remind people again of the titles of your stories, they can go and look for those in particular.
My story is The Matchmaking Spirit of Christmas, and it is, I believe, right in the middle of the Christmas anthology, and it's a longer one, so make sure you have like a good few hours, maybe even like overnight.
A cup of tea next to you. You can have a fire going.
Yeah, although I say I like writing short, I went. Teri gave us a word count, and I went right up to it.
So actually Lindsay's story is called A Matchmaking Christmas Spirit.
What did I say?
You said A Matchmaking Spirit of Christmas.
Good. guys don't know. I have
this is
done
the
that
secret.
so many times. I have done my own title so many.
But this is the secret of being an author. By the time that you're actually going through and talking about your book to anybody who could actually read it publicly, you're on to the next project and you sit there and you just think, what is, somebody wrote a reader's guide for my next book, this one, The Last Garden in England. And in the reader's guide, there was a question that mentioned a male name. And I was like, who is that? It's a very significant character in the present day story. I just completely forgot.
Actually, Teri, I think I need to rename it Sexy Christmas Ghost. So
I'll get right on that. I'll go change all the downloads. Matchmaking Christmas Spirit is the name of Lindsay's story, and it's delightful. But yes, I know what you're talking about because mine is a Merry Royal Layover, and like I said, they're going to the fake kingdom of Caldavia. And I was on another interview yesterday talking about it. But the story I'm editing in real time right now, my edits that are due on Monday, are for another princess book with a different fake kingdom. And I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to Caldavia? Are they going to Bella Moritz? I was like getting my fake principalities confused, but
it's like a crossover episode of a sitcom where they go on to somebody else's show.
Yes, exactly. So my story is called A Merry Royal Layover, and you can read it in one sitting, and it is the very last story in the book. I'm so scared no one's going to read it because there's 11 stories in there. I'm like, is everyone going to read in order? Like, you can skip, you can go straight to the back if you want and read it backwards. You can skip around, you can read Lindsay's, then read mine, and then read everyone else's.
Exactly. You can go out of order, you can flip a coin. You can tell us in the comments how you read anthologies. I always skip around, so I'm probably not the ideal anthology reader, but I'm ideal for you, Teri, because if you're the last story in the book, it's much more likely that I'll read your story before something else. So
I skipped to the end for Teri's. I'll tell you the truth. I did.
Oh. But actually, though, a hint is we have the table of contents, and you can go and you can tell the ones with more chapters or the longer stories. So if you're looking for a shorter read, pick one with a shorter number of chapters. Although Lindsay's chapters are really short, so I don't think her story is as long as it looks. But anyway, so the book is called Christmas Actually, and again, this is our pretty cover. And it's only available in ebook because it ended up being so big, it was going to be cost prohibitive to do it in print. We had wanted to do a print book, but it was going to be a brick. As our designer said, it would be a beautifully fashioned, very well written brick, but it would have been a brick. So it's only available in ebook. Right now it's 99 cents just through Sunday. So on Monday it's going to go up to $5.99. So grab it while it's 99 cents, and you can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple, or Kobo. You can get it at those 4 places.
Okay, wonderful. So everybody should keep an eye out for it and should buy it before Sunday so they get the price.
Right. Yes.
Fantastic.
Through Sunday, 99 cents.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I really, really appreciate it. It's just been fantastic. I know people have enjoyed this. So we will say good night, and we will also say have a very Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate.
Or Happy Christmas.
Or Happy Christmas.
Happy
exactly.
Christmas.
Thank you.
And thank you for having us, Julia. It was so great to see you.
Of course.
So fun.
Of course. Thanks, guys.